Okay, this is Toby. He's doing the boat survey. Well, over to you.
Right, we're doing the ultrasounds, testing the thickness of the metal. Basically, we want to try and get an idea of its condition. We can't test every single inch of the vessel because it would take too long, so we grid the boat up into sections. 9 times out of 10 you can see where the metal's thin, you can see where it's breached and what have you. So basically all we do, we put the ultrasound on, and hopefully with an aqueous transmission gel, and with luck we get a reading, and there is 5.8 millimeters, which is absolutely fantastic. Yeah, these boats, must be 100 years old now. She's over 100 years old, so you think she's probably built out of probably not much more than 6 mil, probably 6 mil, and it's only wasted 0.2 of a millimetre, which is nothing. Obviously these sections here, which you can see, these are over plates which have been put on a long time ago. Sadly we have a triple plate here, but obviously that's likely because the seam where the plates overlap has parted company a tiny bit, but it's not the end of the world. It's not falling apart or falling off.
Which is good.
It is. Yes, this is great. That's the thickness of the bottom. That's 100-year-old plating.
5.6.
Yeah, it'll fluctuate a little tiny bit, but we're talking of 0.1 of a millimetre, which is nothing really, is it?
No. And this is true that we had to have the boat specially lifted to get your beer gut underneath it?
Yes.
Yes.
I think I might go home now. I've got to write this down so I get slagged off by lots of surveyors now. But like say, we see this, like there's lots of pitting here, which we would assume it looks horrendous, but once you, I'll put my goggles on for health and safety. But that's just taken the paint off with a the sanding disc, there's nothing left on it. That's just taken the paint off, and the pits, there's nothing there.
They're not
so
deep.
It just, the paint accentuates the pits quite often than not. And where it may look bad, it'll probably only be a millimetre or so. If there are excessive pits, we do measure them, but quite honestly on this, there's no need.
A few other things to mention. The survey's now been done, as you can see from all the marks and stuff on the boat. I think we've got away with it. These are some old holes. Just no one's welded up for me. And yeah, all these grindy bits are where Toby's done the hull assessment, the thickness. I think we by and large got away with it, although there's a little bit here which I think is going to end up plating. So it'll be plate over plate over plate. Anyway, but I'll probably do a video on the survey as when I get the report. But hopefully that's the only plate we're going to need to do, which is good. That's very good, actually. Okay, so today, or this week probably, we were going to be doing survey stuff. So one of the things that came up in the survey was these things here. So what happened was when they put the coach roof on, instead of trying to join it to what was the original deck, they have just gone a little bit further and welded the whole roof to the outside of it. Now, what's happened, because of all the bad windows, this metal that was here has just got wet and expanded and expanded and expanded. And you can see like all these layers. You see what's happening. It's basically the rust expands and pushes this metal out. You see how this is way thicker than back here. So the survey recommendation is to basically just chop this off, and you can see where it had some real bad damage from the window. It's got rotted through, and a little tap with a survey hammer knocked a hole in it. So what he's saying is you probably need to overplate probably kind of this much from the outside deck. That's one way of fixing it, or the other way of fixing it is to literally crop all this crap out and graft a new piece in to make it just a square without all this stuff. So this runs from about halfway down the boat all the way up and finishes there. So that's the task, and it's obviously it's on both sides as well. So the annoying part of that is that the 4 pieces that I've actually put on will probably have to come off. There you go. So we're not finished tearing down yet. Right, that's that. I think was welded to the deck. Ooh, falling over. So it goes all the way to the front. So this is fine, but looking along underneath the windows, it's looking like less fine. So I think one of the ways to fix this would be just to have like maybe a plate that runs all the way along the top there to meet into this, which is still good metal. So you could do it from the outside, or cut this out and graft a plate in, which would look better, but it's a case of how much it will cost, I guess. But anyway, yeah, that's what it looks like from the outside. Also, will we have room underneath this window to put the plate in? So questions. Okay, heavy metal. Cutting out a strip all the way along. Get rid of that overhang. Gotta say, on those things, I'm more used to dealing with sawdust. It's iron filings. First and foremost is this C-clip down here, which is obviously turned off and doesn't go anywhere. But nevertheless, is a danger, as these brass fittings are can get brittle and they break, or the valve fails or something like that, and this is basically a hole to the bottom of the boat, which in boat terms is generally considered bad news. So this means a patch, and either just we'll just probably cap this off, but we'll weld a patch on underneath, so that's that hole shut. Other stuff are work out some method of keeping things out of this gear. This is the steering gear, and just make sure that none of these controls can flap in the way of it, or otherwise foul things up. Also, a little thing is we've got to work on the fuse board, make sure that's got a box. We found a box cover, so that can go on there, so should be able to make all that safe. And what else can we say? Also, this exhaust needs a good lagging with kind of well, it's not asbestos anymore, but heat-proof tape all the way from basically here all the way around over that box, like a big anti-heat blanket round there, and all the way out to the end. yeah, so that's kind of major things that we need to do in here. Also the stern gland, which is that. This is obviously where the prop shaft goes out to the propeller, and it runs through a kind of I think it's essentially a box of grease and a kind of, well, I don't know what it is, but it's some kind of cloth that is bound tightly round, and the combination of the grease and the cloth makes a seal, and that is what that thing is there. Every time you go out, you're supposed to just give it a couple of cranks and grind a bit more grease into the stern gland and stop it all from leaking. It's been done relatively recently, and apparently we can tell that by the fact we've got so much extra thread here, because as it gets warm, you crank up these nuts to compress it a little bit more, and there's plenty of nut thread to go, or thread to go, so that means it's relatively new. But while we're in dry dock here, not dry dock, while we're on the land, it'd be good to pull it apart and just check what goes in there and how it's done. But that's for another day, really. That's not part of the survey, but it's just something that we that was said that we needed to maybe do. Okay, that's basically it in here. Apart from have a major tidy up, I guess, at some point. The exhaust, she is wrapped. Okay, so here we are underneath the Goliath, and that is the bottom of the seacock. So as you can see, a definite hole. So that's got to come off, the plate goes over. Also, that other thing was in there, we didn't really know what it was. That's the bottom of it, so that's something else you're going to have to ask about. Don't know what it is. It's got some kind of lump on the top with a wire coming out of it. Looks like some kind of sensor. Maybe it's a temperature sensor or something, I don't know. But don't know that we need to keep it, or because it's not doing anything, it's not connected to anything. So yeah, don't really know. One for the surveyor, one for Toby. Anyway, another job. So that's before, I'll show you after. Temporary fix for the rudder problem. I've got to drill some holes. A little bit about rudder repair here. We have fitted the plate on either side, bolt them together and epoxied the rudder together. It's a big epoxy metal wood sandwich. And that one's actually just welded little spots, and here. Anyway, so this should get us a bit more life out of this wooden rudder. Now I'm going to I've masked up a few bits and pieces, and I'm going to put some more epoxy filler into the places. I'm also going to paint the exposed oak with more epoxy as well, prior to painting the whole thing in exactly what we painted the underneath the hull with. And then the only other thing to do on this rudder is to put a top on it to take an emergency tiller, which is also part of the survey instructions, so we'll do that. So there you go, more about that later on. Bye bye. Show you our nicely painted emergency rudder setup. which is now looking quite good. It's ready for a nice pole to be slammed in there, and this will come off, enabling us to steer in an emergency, which will be quite hard work, so I'm going to have a big pole to do that.